We'll move on to, we have a bit of time for questions, some questions, right? Yeah, let's do that before we close. Yeah, let's go. I didn't see you put that. Let's go here to the front. This lady on the front here. Miko, anybody got a microphone? Oh, I'll have to use this one. Miko, could you please help me out? Thank you. Rather from the. Thank you.
Yeah, she can go first. Okay.
Not me, sure.
Hi. Okay, thank you for everything. This is a question mostly to Yanis and Brid. I read your books, Yanis, the Techno-Feudalism and Another Now, thank you. And since I work in tech, I had this burning question ever since. So I work for one of these companies that are, like based in the US, publicly listed. Many of them are in Ireland as well. And as a tech worker, my question is, what is your advice to us? Like, should we stay in these companies and stand our ground there in this extremely toxic environments where all the leadership has all the, that bunch of capitalists, neoliberalists, and these guys, and all of our workers, they don't see themselves as workers. They are like a very full of hubris and so on, most of them. So should we do our work there and stand our ground there in this environment? Should we move out and then create alternatives with our skills, or should we just do a third thing, like do both, or grow potatoes instead?
Thanks so much. Let's gather a few more, and then we can do it all at the same time. The lady over there, and then the gentleman over here. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Juliette. I'm from People's Health Movement, and we also have a Dutch circle. And I'm a bit struggling with the tensions between organizing locally and how to make a fist to like the bigger movements. So, for example, I believe that when we build locally, we can build that world that's worth fighting for. I come from the poorest city in the Netherlands, which is Rotterdam, where in some areas 13% of the people only vote, so there's no trust in local politics. And we are creating a movement there built of many people that are already working on a local level, that have been in the neighborhoods, and that are doing what's needed for the people and with the people, for example in healthcare, as we do. And at the same time, our enemies, they are working on a global scale. They're working together, they're building coalitions. And so I was wondering, as someone who organizes locally, how do we connect to that bigger story? But also, as you are faces also of the global, because you reach many people, how do you engage that locality, and what do you do within your own locality? And for DM 2025, what do you do on the local scale within the cities? You're not, for example, in the movements of Rotterdam. So is that one of your intention to build there where there is already being built? Because many things are happening on the bad but also on the good side in the Netherlands. I think it's crucial to interweave, because otherwise we'll run away.
Thanks so much. And then the last question just here, and then if we have time after, we'll do more. But the gentleman over here on this side. Yeah. Thank you.
We're running out of time.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a very nice discussion today, and food for thought. I'm a bit skeptic about the following. Like, there are some facts. First of all, the right, as we said, is rising. Secondly, I feel that the message from our side doesn't reach a broad audience. Something's not going well with this. Activism of movements are super useful and important, but I'm not sure if they reach the people, the message reaches the people who do not look at here. I'm not sure, like, I'm curious, Yanis said before that, yeah, it doesn't matter if Mera succeeds in Germany. I don't know if I understood correctly the statement, but I think it matters, because if it succeeds, it means that the message reached a broader audience. And this is why I'm a bit skeptical. What is the lesson learned so far?
Okay.
There are some lessons learned, I guess.
Thanks so much. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's start with that, and if there's more time, we'll do more questions. Who would like to take the floor? Yanis, do you? Yeah, you do it. Microphone there.
Tech workers.
increasingly tech workers make, I mean, you know, you have your own experiences, but from tech workers I know, especially in Silicon Valley, the veneer of their invulnerability to the boss's brutality has gone. Something fell.
That's a confirmation. Yeah.
So once upon a time, for instance, you know, if you worked for Google at the campus in San Francisco, you know, you felt you were in a kind of Disneyland. Today it feels more like a sweatshop. So things are getting worse. But let me come straight to your question, what should you do? I can't possibly give personal advice, because this is the whole point about politics. We talk about collectivities, we are talking about movement choices, not individual choices. But I will nevertheless try to not avoid your question by saying that the movement will need techies. We are going to certainly, most certainly, and you know, because you read my another now, I think that in the same way we need engineers, old-fashioned mechanical engineers and chemical engineers, we need coders, we need technologists, we need people who know the algos, who know how to build algos, because we, you know, when we take them over, somebody needs to run them. And the whole point is not to, you know, to be Luddites in the vulgar term, of the sense of the term, because the original Luddites were very misunderstood, and they were wonderful activists, and they didn't work against the machines, they worked against the owners of the machines. The objective must be to take over, to socialize the means of communication, not just for production and distribution, and we need you. So if you feel that you can maintain your sanity and your integrity while staying within, learning, sharing what you learn with us, and being ready to help us create our own apps, the apps of the movement, the apps of civil society, then stay. Okay, on the question of local versus global organization, well, it's not a dilemma. You have to work, I mean, I'm not going to say anything you don't know. We need to work at both levels. So yes, it is true that there are disenfranchised communities who don't give a damn about the discussion about DeepSeek, about the BRICS, about the European Central Bank. They will only be motivated by things that concern their own sports club, their own school, their own hospital, their access to healthcare and so on. And that's what we need to provide for them, a voice regarding those things. But at the same time, we can't ignore the fact that there's something called the European Central Bank, which prints trillions for the ultra-rich. And in so doing, it depresses the rest of society. We need to take over the ECB, but that requires a movement that is pan-European. And those two movements go hand in hand. You have to work hard to ensure that the people in the local community who are apolitical or depoliticized because they've been disenfranchised because they have no access to a doctor, they understand that the reason why they don't have an access to a doctor has much to do with the way the European Central Bank operates. And finally, no, I never said that it doesn't matter if we don't do well in elections, otherwise, you know, why are we doing it? Of course. But what I'm saying is that even if you were to, let's say that you had a crystal ball and you were to derive from it a safe prediction that we would fail, that's no reason for not to do it. That's the point I was making. As for the capacity of the movement, the party, to reach a broad audience. Yeah, look, we are facing a megalith of concentrated discursive power in the hands of a tiny band of people who own the media, who will make sure they will, you know, work tirelessly day and night to make sure that our message doesn't come across. So you know that. So it's not exactly failure, it's a designer feature of the system. That doesn't mean that we can't and we shouldn't try to pierce through that. But you know, this is not entirely up to us. I mean, we have social media, we have one way, this way, that way of doing it. But from my experience, it is I often use the metaphor of surfing. Once upon a time, I used to surf in Australia. You know, the surfer cannot create the wave, but the surfer has an obligation to be ready for catching the wave when it comes. So in 2015, for instance, our little party, we were around 3-4% free yonks. 3-4%. Then the crisis hit. And the movements started, the solidarity movements started getting, working very, very hard and very successfully across Greece. And they created the wave, the crisis and the movements. And then we rode it. And we went from 3% to 40% in a few years. So this is what we should be doing. And we should not despair that the wave isn't here. Don't worry about that. That's what I meant. Prepare to catch it.
Thank you so much. The Netherlands, you have obviously the coast, in this country. So please prepare for those waves. Sign up to surfing lessons if you haven't already. Before we go to that, we'll have more questions. We've had a nice extension from the audience, from the venue. Thank you so much. But first, we'll go to Brid and then Lucille. Brid.
Yeah, there's not really much to add in relation to addressing the questions beyond what Yanis has said. But on your question in particular, earlier this morning, one or two people, came up to have a chat about what did I mean by the political imaginary? Because I think, in a way, we're in a new era about where the radical, progressive, transformative movements are going to come from. Or maybe it was always there, but I think, reading the signs of the times and reading where the political agency is going to come from. I think, Lucille gave us a very good example. The students in Soweto. This is a catalyst. I think in our case, in Europe, we've to search and look. I think it's going to be disruptive. We will have to disrupt where we're okay, and maybe we are talking a lot to the converted. Even this room this morning, so full of good vibes and searches for the future, is really still a bubble. We all agree with that. And what Yanis is saying, I think is important. A lot of the future is going to be dominated by, determined by the tech and the tech workers and those mediums of communication. But I think, and I will stand to be corrected, I do think we will still have to look people in the eye. We will have to go to the sites of resistance. Where are they happening in the Netherlands? I think we can all find where the sites of resistance are. Certainly in our experience of building a multi-sectoral movement and a multi-social movement on the question of corporations, it was the affected communities that are affected, whether they're in the global south or in the global north. This is the catalyst, and I think we have to be able to find those sites of resistance. And maybe in relation to Europe, I think one of the imaginary things we may have to think about. I had my vision of Amsterdam and the Pershing missiles, or Bonn in the time of Reagan, or indeed London and Britain in the time of Gaza. The mobilizations were just so fantastic. But I think there are other movements happening, and one of the ones that will be coming up in this year is the Caravan for the Rights of Migrants and Refugees, run by the migrants and refugees themselves. And I think this is one of the key areas of struggle that we in Europe have to look very closely at, and what's happening there in terms of political agency, in terms of north-south understanding, in terms of how this could be part of the Europe that we want. So I think we have to sharpen where we're looking for this kind of catalyst.
Thank you so much, Brid. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. All right, so we'll have the last word to Lucille,
Yes.
and then we'll end it there. Actually,
Yes.
I had the wrong time actually, so we'll do that. Sorry about that. If you have any questions or comments, you can of course approach us. Lucille.
Thank you. Us back to the center in terms of what Brid said, and it is really true. We have to continuously build the movement, because within or from the movement we gain the strength as a springboard to move to the next level, which is the level of governance. And the reason why I'm part of DM25 is because we are doing that. We have the movement, which is DM25, and it never ever stops standing in the streets and protesting and raising its voice. But then we also have the electoral wing, and that deals with implementing these ideas. And coming from the global south myself, I really love the idea that we are not just tackling local issues or having our blinkers on, like they say. You know, you're not like a racehorse in a race that you're only looking at this one little lane. But it's a multi-dimensional take on politics. If we don't take care of the most vulnerable amongst us, then what we are doing is of absolutely zero value for the world. Because that's where political reach needs to go. It needs to reach to the most vulnerable person. It needs to reach the person here who perhaps doesn't have arms, or perhaps doesn't have legs, or perhaps cannot hear or see, that is completely dependent on other human beings to keep them sustained and alive. Palestine is dependent on us because they have absolutely zero to rest on. That's why we have to become, what was the word they used? Fixated. Because if you're not fixated on the most vulnerable, then what are you busy doing? One day we'll all not be here anymore. Me personally, I do not have any children. I have one stepson, but he was not born from my womb. And I think about this all the time. What will be the thing I leave behind? It is whether or not I stood up in a time of great adversity and spoke up for the most vulnerable, and spoke up for those that are politically and economically being crushed by a diabolical system, that they were, even before they were born, they were already cursed to suffer under the heaviness of whatever that weight is. Before a child's first cry comes out in Gaza, it is already named a million names. It is born under this wave of oppression. And that's why it's important for us to continuously do the work. But important also for us to hold those accountable that have brought us here in the first place. And the only way we can do that is take up the spaces which they hold right now. And that's how you organize for power, to bring down the 1%. Unite in the fight. Who lot is dit? Who lot is dit? Who lot is dit? Who lot is dit? In Dutch, what's the time or how late is it? Solidariteit. Tate in Dutch is time. So it's time for solidarity. I thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
I think David will have the last word here. But there's just two things I just wanted to say, two sentences. One is, if you want to know the depth of the complicity of Europe in the current genocide, you should turn to T&I. We have a very good report called Partners in Crime. Woo! And you'll find it all there. It's really well worth a read, and you can add your own chapter as well. And the second thing I did want to say was, I don't know, do we have singers here? Do people know the song We Teach Life, sir? No, this is the great Palestinian singer, and this wonderful song. I'll just quote a line of it. It would be great if we were able to finish with it, but I mean, it's like the kind of, the way we have to invent a new vocabulary. I think somebody said earlier, we're not speaking actually, well, Mandela, we're not speaking the language of the people and their daily experience. Well, this song is really speaking that language, and it's called, she's imagining being interviewed by the media and all the, you know, having the right language, having the best English or the best Dutch, no? But what the last line of it is amazing. You know, because when you're interviewed like this, you're not supposed to use the word apartheid, bad word, occupation, or worse word, oh my God, genocide, my goodness. No, you can't mention those words. But what she says is, we Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life. We teach life, sir or madam. We teach life. And I think this is the kind of language that everyone understands what that's about. No, anyway, that's it.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Well,